So my name's Luke, and this is the... No, sorry.
I couldn't think of anything funny to say.
I
That's the intro. What's going on, everybody? This is Luke. We're at Patchwerk Studios live. We're joined here with D, all the way from the West Coast. We got G from the West Coast. Sorry, GT from the West Coast. And we got Mike joining us for another episode. This is the Engineers Corner, an affiliate of I Do Music. We broadcast about engineer life here from Patchwerk Studios, located in Atlanta, Georgia. I was thinking the other day, I was having a moment. I was thinking about starting a memoir, autobiography. And I was thinking about how I even got to be into the music industry, music lifestyle, because that's really more what it is. And I was thinking about things I wanted to talk to with, my coworkers today. And I was thinking I really actually don't know much about how they even got into it. I feel like everyone has a different story. Everyone played a different role when they were coming up. People were musicians, DJs, promoters. Somehow they got into it some weird way. And so I wanted to start with D. You could think back the years past, what got you into music? What got you into engineering? What was kind of the path?
Mm-hmm. DJing was my start pretty much. That's what I fell in love with. Was I went to a club, I saw people partying, and I said, who's controlling this? And found the DJ and was like, okay, this is what I want to do. Then I got into the DJ lifestyle, and I was running the club 7 days a week, Monday through Sunday, and I realized that lifestyle I wasn't gonna be able to keep up that lifestyle very long. So as I was working a regular job. I started researching Full Sail, and I kind of realized that I found something that blended the technical stuff that I did in the military and had the creative side for like DJing and stuff that kind of blended the two. So
what were you doing in the military?
I was missile maintenance.
That's so cool, dude.
Yeah, power.
And that was Air Force, right?
Yep, Air Force. Power and air conditioning in Air Force. And then I worked at doctor's office after that. So yeah.
Nice.
Yep.
And that was in D.C., right?
Yeah, VA. Yep.
Were you DJing Go-Go?
Whatever they wanted.
No, dude, that's so cool. Did you ever do any DJing here in Atlanta? Why Atlanta?
Yes, we did. Me and one of the other engineers that was here, Brian Pedersen, we DJ'd at, what was it called? The Pool Hall down in Buckhead. We did that for probably a good 3 or 4 months.
So when you started, what was the hot song that was out? You played all the time?
Back then?
Yeah, back in the back.
Nice.
Oh, man. The only one I really remember was the Aaliyah song with Timberland. When that came, I had to play that song at least 3 to 4 times in a night.
Wow.
Just because everybody was like, come back up. Hey, play that one more time for me, please. I was like, all right, I'll get you.
I'm not a DJ. I don't know much about DJing. Is it common for people just to come up to you and just request songs, all drunk?
Mm-hmm.
They're spilling stuff all over your equipment.
And they don't, when people request a song, they just want to hear that for their personal enjoyment. They don't think about what the DJ is actually doing in the club. Like, it's a formula. There's things that are happening to keep the energy going. And somebody just coming up like, play some Tim McGraw.
Stop being a narcissist.
Right.
Get out of here.
Don't work.
Tim McGraw.
No, I mean, yeah. Most of the time you just be nice. You're like, hey, okay, sure, got you. And you just keep on doing what you're doing.
It's always a smooth transition,
Yeah.
like Aaliyah, and let's put on some Garth Brooks afterwards.
Exactly. It's like, this doesn't fly. But that was back in the day. You do whatever. The club is whatever is needed. That's how it always worked for me. So.
That's cool.
Yep.
And then how did that transition to engineering, though? How do you go DJ to engineering?
Well, like I said, I was in the military, so I like gear. I like technical stuff. I like doing the board and having knobs and faders and all of that stuff, and then being able to take the board apart and fix it. Like, those are the things that interest me as well.
Finding Full Sail introduced engineering to you.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. GT, man, welcome for the first episode. GT's from Vegas, right?
Yep.
That's awesome. What's it like being from Vegas, man?
I mean, it's like being from anywhere. Like, if you're from Vegas, you don't go to the Strip like that.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm assuming people don't go to Coca-Cola factory on a regular living here.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. But I started similar to you. I started DJing at 11. I always loved music. I never really played video games or anything. Like, at 11 years old, that was my Christmas gift, turntables. So I always DJ'd, and I remember watching Dr. Dre. Like, that's why I wanted to be a producer. I was like, oh, I would spin all these records. So I was like, I want to make the beats that make the people dance. Like, it's cool spinning, but I want to actually produce. And it's crazy because my mom has like old baby books and pictures, and she was like, as a baby, I was like always beating, playing drums, doing all of that. So I think just the rhythm has always been in my soul. So being a producer was like my natural progression. And then I became an engineer because my mentor, Bonsai Caruso, was in a session and heard my beats, and he was like, oh, man, I like your ear. I like what you're doing. Maybe you should think about becoming an engineer. And then I went to Full Sail. So I was already producing for projects and doing all of that and being in studios. And I went back to school at like 29.
Got you.
To then get, my paperwork and be able to work in a place like this. But I was already in like big sessions and all of that as a producer.
Right.
So, I wanted to really go learn the craft, and I knew Dre had a certain sound, and that was my thing. Like, okay, well, if I'm gonna make beats, I want my beats to knock a certain way. So then, I transitioned into an engineer, and then from there, I came here and been going ever since.
So what was the big song when you were DJing? Paul Simon, Graceland?
I'm like, shit, all that Timbaland shit. Like, it's crazy because Timbaland, like, his beats really made me want to, like, make beats. Him and Dr. Dre was like, damn, the way that those Aaliyah beats were, and Timbaland and Magoo. Snoop, for sure, like, all the Snoop Dogg and Dog Pound, all that West Coast stuff, like, that was it. Like, we were playing all the West Coast.
And at this point, you guys DJing's off the laptop at this point?
No,
DJ
off turntables. Like, it was turntables.
Like, I'm telling you, I don't know this stuff.
Yeah, it was turntables. And like my first equipment was drum machines. Like, I was using RS-7000 Yamahas and MPCs and all of that type of stuff first.
You know when you go to a record store and you see all those records?
Yeah.
I used to take all of those to the
car. They're still in my parents' house in Vegas. I still have walls of vinyls and all of that shit. Like,
that's so cool.
Yeah. When I first learned to DJ, the guy that taught me, he was basically like, you spend the first 2 months beat counting. That's all you get to do.
Damn.
So I sat in his garage with turntables just learning how to beat count. So I could match records, because that's a big thing when you DJ is beat matching. So if you can't count a record, how are you going to beat match it? So.
Yeah. Shoot. Mike, man, how'd you get into music?
A lot of the same lines, because I do know some people's stories, but a lot of kind of the same line that you did. Yeah. So I actually played as a musician. So when I was a kid, my parents got me into piano lessons to start with. And then I did that for a little while, and the piano really wasn't the thing. And, of course, when you're taking lessons where your parents send you, you end up playing Chopin and Mozart and Beethoven, which is all cool for learning your basics and learning how to learn the music overall in a general sense, but that wasn't my thing. So I decided that I wanted to play guitar because that's what the cool kids did. Yep. And so I took guitar lessons for a while and played guitar for a while. And then when I went to college for business. And while I was there, I got more involved in music and played with some people at the school and did things like that. So toward the end of my degree time, I decided I wanted to go to Berkeley. But my parents were like, man, that's crazy. You only got like a year and a half left. Just finish, get your degree, and then decide what you want to do. And during that time, I decided Berkeley was too expensive and was going to take longer because I didn't want to be actually a performer. I decided that I wanted to be more involved in actually recording music and as opposed to being a performer. So that's kind of where and then I ended up going to school here at Art Institute. And so when I got out of regular college, I came down here and did a year and a half in that school, which gives you a technical degree, an associate's degree, technical degree in recording. Which was cool because and a lot of my credits were able to transfer over, so I didn't have to go as long. And then out of there, I went into live sound. I did live sound for a while. Right. So I did a lot of clubs around here. You
did some big acts too.
I did some big acts, but I mean, a lot of it was more grunt work. You start out doing the grunt work, so you're the guy that pushes all the cases around and all that junk. And I did plenty of damages pushing those things around and running into things and
getting yelled at.
Yeah, all
those
the time.
Guys get yelled. They screamed at.
Yeah,
it's like insane.
Setting all that stuff up. So did a lot of that, and then started running sound at clubs and doing a lot of that. And the problem I had with live sound was that unlike the studio, you make a mistake, it's a mistake, it's done. And also dealing with artists that at that time, of course, when you're playing live, these guys, the skill level wasn't quite at, they're local people, they're not really that as good. And so I just kind of had a problem dealing with dealing with live people in general. You had to lug all the gear in every time. Some of the guys' gear, I remember one guy when I was doing a live gig, and he didn't have a ground pen on his amp. And I told him, I said, man, hey, you don't have a ground pen on your amp, dude. That you can get shocked by that. He's like, oh man, I know what I'm doing, blah blah. And he was the singer too. So as soon as he had the guitar on, he sang and got up to that mic and zap, you could see the damn current just shoot out of the microphone into his lip. And I was like, man. And then all I could do was look at him and say, I told you. I mean, and the best I could do was try to put some, I put a screen over it, but there was really, I said, man, you just don't put your lip on the microphone. Don't get that close. But so after a while, you kind of like, I just, I don't really want to deal with this particular level. I'd rather work in a more professional, bigger environment or whatever with studios and that kind of. So that's kind of what and I moved into the studio thing.
So you're doing live sound here in Atlanta.
Yeah, I was doing it here in Atlanta, and mainly in clubs. I mean, I did some stuff at Center Stage and some places like that, and I did do some crew type stuff over at Phillips and stuff like that. But I didn't really run sound at Phillips. That's kind of the gigs where you get on and you help them set up all the gear for the big acts that already got their own touring sound men. And then I did a lot of sound at Masquerade. I did it at this place called The Point downtown.
And it was the Masquerade, like the old factory
The old factory
one?
Masquerade, yeah, up in the upstairs area. I did some sound there, ran monitors for a while.
That must, because I only saw it, at the tail end. How cool it must have been, back when it was, kind of newer.
Now, that was a good club to work at because the acts that came in there were a little bit bigger, and they were a little bit, they weren't as the same as kind of some of the local acts that are just playing small dive type places and stuff. So, but then after a while, it would wear you out, loading all the gear and setting everything up, and then the volume. It's a lot of volume that you can't really control. Yeah. As far as you got to have it playing loud. So after a while, I was just like, I kind of rather get into doing studio stuff and doing more of that kind of thing. So, I kind of moved into that and did the same thing as everybody else with interns and assisting, and then moving to engineering, that kind of a thing.
I'm sure you guys can relate to carrying in the DJ decks and the vinyls. That's always a complaint I hear about DJs bringing in the crates.
Yeah, I've carried so many crates in my day. So when Serato came out, that was the coolest thing in the world. It was unbelievable. It was hold on, I can put all of my records into this computer and not have to lug anything around anymore. I mean, I think Serato started because of DJ Jazzy Jeff, because he would spend close to 3 racks to move his records everywhere he played.
Wow.
Because he had
just
to take
the
them.
cartage?
So just the cart. 3 racks everywhere you went, regardless. Extra. So it was
crazy.
so he helped design that program so that it could be that easy. So.
I actually had a question about DJing. I bought a record player, a turntable to just listen to vinyls. And of course I just buy super hardcore metal vinyls. They're already they're super compressed. It doesn't even sound different than what it is. It's just someone screaming into a microphone.
Right.
But when you're DJing and you have a vinyl, it's okay, there's a vinyl disc and the songs are go flow to each other. Are you literally just dropping the needle on if you needed to get to track 2 or track 3?
When you know,
I was
when
you really are.
When you know. Yeah, I can. We used to do this needle drop.
Yeah,
needle drop where you need to.
You could tell. Yeah.
Kind of listen and then you fade it in.
I mean,
fade it out,
sometimes we got really. Stickers were the key. If you knew your stickers, you would sticker point everything. So you could just drop your needle. It would run off the sticker and go right to the point you needed. So that's normally when you see battle records, you'll see a whole bunch of stickers in different spots. Those are all the things he's trying to use for
indicators.
Yeah, those are exactly what they are.
My plays.
Yeah, these are your cue points basically.
Yeah, that's cue points.
They're basically cue points.
Yep.
God.
But even every record, when you start it off, you have to put your record on the turntable, and then you put your needle at the very end, wherever you turn your record until you get sound. The first part you hear sound, that's where you stick your first marker, and there'll be a little sticker coming off, and that's where that's kind of your bring back point. You can judge that. So,
man, I wish I was cooler when I was younger and gotten into DJing. I was just really into Game Boy and Pokemon.
I was into games too, my man. I was
making a resurgence. Actually, that Pokemon stuff.
It's weird. I was
actually
never into games. I never really
something.
owned systems ever my whole life.
Now that Pokemon's coming back, I can do a little dose.
Yeah.
Play some Pokemon, dude.
I mean,
now I'm in the game.
I was notorious for ripping my things apart, though. So I'd get it you break something, someone would break, and I'm screwdriver, and let's see what's inside this thing. Oh.
So going back, so now let's reverse it. So Mike, doing live sound, coming from a business background, a music background, how did that translate into becoming a great engineer? What qualities did you pick up doing those gigs and coming up helped you get to where you're at now?
I think the live thing helps a lot because it teaches you how to blend things that are that you're hearing. I mean, it's not you don't have a whole lot of time to sit there and let me EQ and change this and let me solo this out. You have to blend things with everything playing, and you have to make adjustments with everything playing because you can't just start soloing things out. People are listening to the music, so you can't say, "Oh, hold on, I don't really like the bass sound. I'm going to solo this out," and everybody's like, "What? What are you doing?"
Yeah.
So you have to learn how to blend all that, and you got to learn to blend it on the fly with people you've never heard. It's like you don't get that. Like in the studio, you definitely hear the record over. Man, in 8 hours, you might hear the record, 1,000 times, but. When you're doing that, it's like the first time you hear the song, and you got to make decisions on the fly. Okay, oh man, this would be cool. I'm gonna add a delay right here. I might make this a bigger verb on this, even though you've never heard the song or dealt with it.
Right.
So I think it helps, on a creative level. I think it helps to when you go into the studio, it gives you more creative points to kind of think about things that you might do on that kind of a level. I think it definitely helps on that. It definitely helps to be able to put together rough mixes and things when you're in the middle of tracking. I can put together rough mixes while people are still recording.
Right.
I don't typically need to okay, give me an hour so I can give you a rough mix. I'm like, I can blend all that on the fly while you're still cutting vocals. I think it helped in that position a lot. And then of course, like the funny thing is like the business background that I have has always helped. I mean, I own this studio with Curtis now, and that's always advantageous because it's called the music business. It's not called the music.
Right.
So it's like
I work in
the
the
business
music.
is the other half of the music,
Right.
and the music, while some people do it for fun and that's all cool to do that, but a lot, what we're doing obviously is for people to make a living and sell records and things like that. So there is always the business part. So understanding that, it also helps too to be able to see different points of view. Because a lot of people get mad at the label because the label's like, they don't do this and this, and I don't like the label because it is. Yeah, but if the label's trying to make money so that you can make money, so everybody can keep doing this.
Right.
To make a living. So I think a lot of that kind of just some of that stuff helps. In addition, like of course when I started, I didn't own the studio and I worked for myself. So that also helps you, be a freelance engineer and to actually be your own boss, to do things and to understand things a little bit better, to have a business background of some sort. Helps you deal with the things that people that are paying you, because they're the business people. So you kind of be able to deal with them in addition to being able to deal with artists and
Speak both
things
languages.
like that. Yeah, exactly. It helps.
Glenn, how do you feel DJing, being in Vegas, coming up, helped you become a great engineer?
Well,
What qualities?
I think being a producer helped me become a great engineer because of feel. Like you have to feel it. Like, and I trust my ear because it's just producing and hearing it. So I think just that feeling and knowing how records sound in a club, DJing. So it's like, all right, I know how it feels, how people react to certain songs, and then I know how I feel producing. So it all kind of translates together.
That's got to be a cool experience.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like you were already a great producer, went to go learn engineering? Do you think your producing leveled up?
Oh,
after
yeah,
you
most
learned?
definitely.
In what ways do you feel like you leveled up?
Because
from there?
now I know why I'm using certain things when I'm producing instead of just throwing it on and just hoping it works. Now it's like, all right, I know why I'm affecting the kick like this and the snare like this. And so it's just like you can tell like the beats, they punch out of the speakers differently now, like, and they stand up.
That's cool.
Just understanding engineering and harmonics and shit like that, like on keyboards and synths and all of that, it just makes it better.
There's a method to the madness.
Yeah, yep.
D, what do you think helped you along?
It's pretty much all that they said, but for me also I noticed that arranging things in the session is pretty easy because of the DJ. Song structure. You've listened to thousands of records hundreds of times. Like you just the core music is definitely more knowledgeable, I guess. But yeah, for me, just in general, DJing, all of this it just made you a better studio person. It's like you knew what was going on. Like you like music, you know what's going on. It's easier to interact with everybody and stuff. And
That's where I was going next. Actually, like all three of you guys come from like an environment where you have to interact with others. You're like in a club setting. There's a lot going on. How do you feel? I'll start with D. How do you feel like being in that like setting environment helped you become a great studio engineer? You're used to dealing with a couple hundred people always coming up to you, but now we're down to like there's a producer, a couple people, artist.
So
is there
it's
a
even,
different?
So now it's even easier. It's less to worry about. I don't have 100 people. I don't have a crowd of people to please, and at any time can turn on me or wipe the dance floor out because I played the wrong song or whatever. Here in the studio, you just okay, I got that, got you, get that done. But it just makes life easier. I think.
See, where like I did like one like live sound gig, and I was like, this is not for me. This sucks.
Yeah. What'd you do?
Because the musicians were such a pain in the butt.
Did you do
Do you
monitoring?
feel like it was like coming, like you could deal with people easier in the studio having had experiences dealing with people like in a live situation where people are like obviously like inebriated and everything?
Well, I think that dealing with people in the studio is just different because when it's live, I mean, I think people, you got to look at the artist's perspective a little bit. When they're playing live, they also know I can't go back and fix my mistake. So if you make me sound bad and I actually am playing good and you make me sound bad, then they're not going to blame you. They're going to blame me.
Right.
And so that's the artist mentality, right? And I get that because I also play out, and so you want the sound to always be good. So I think they're also under a little bit of the pressure of there's no rewind button live. So you kind of got to give a little bit of that to them, and it does create a little more stress for everybody because it's like, hey, this is my opportunity to shine in front of these people. Whereas when you're in the studio, it's like, yeah, I screwed up like 10 times. I don't care. Just erase it and let's do it again because nobody's going to hear this until I got it exactly how I want it. Yeah. And so no matter what anybody really does in the studio, it's not going out until until as an artist I'm satisfied, and it's going to go out like that.
Right.
So on, I mean, granted, yeah. So just as live, it's a little bit hard to deal with because there's no rewind button,
right.
and there's no safety net.
Right.
But there is that in the studio because obviously we're recording, but there again, there's always that I erased your stuff by accident thing that's that you can always do, and so.
So yeah, I want to get into this. Has that happened to you, Mike?
Oh, yeah.
Accidentally. What's that story?
So I mean, I deleted an entire session by accident.
It was just a freak thing.
Yeah, I mean, the files were all still there, and this was even in Pro Tools where you got all your session file backups and all that. But it was one of those things where I selected something and I hit the wrong key, and when I did, it wiped out the entire edit desk. Oh. And so all the files were still there, but I had to hand drag them all back in one by one and align them all back up. And see. That could have turned into a real bad situation, but the artist was really cool about it. He was, he was like, whatever. I'm just going to go in the other room when you're done. Just come back and get me.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it took me about an hour and a half, and I had to put the whole song. I mean, it's everything. I had to get it all put back together, all the little pieces, punches, all this stuff, and line it back up. But, say that kind of thing happens on a reel, which is I've made that mistake on a reel. You're on the wrong track and you erase something. Oh. I mean, one time I actually erased an entire tape because it was just a miscommunication between myself and the producer, and actually, at that point, I was really assisting somebody, and I was told, "Yeah, we're going to do this all over again. So just go over and go over this, and we'll do a clean take." And so that's what I did. I went. As an engineer, wouldn't that make to anybody? It's like that means you want to erase all of this, and you're going to do it. So that's what I did. I said I erased the tape, and that's not what I meant. I meant we're going to get another tape, and we're going to do it over. Yeah, we're not, but that's not what you said. So, and with tape, it's like, well, it's gone. Yeah. So there is no going back, and that one was a little more stressful, because
oh man, I can imagine
that wasn't the communication that was supposed to be happening. There wasn't really a fix of that. It was more like we got to do it over. But then again, it was one of those things where you said you were going to do it over anyway. So really, what is the drama here? Because we erased a take you didn't want anyhow.
Yeah.
But it always becomes a drama when you did something that really wasn't what they thought was going to happen. So anyway, there's always that kind of a situation that you run into occasionally too. So you can be in the same kind of situation live or in studio. The studio doesn't always have that safety net that you might think it does. But with computers, you are definitely is a better situation because you can always go back, revert, Control Z, whatever, and you can go back and save things and stuff like that. So,
what did you do?
You got a lot more space. So.
Oh, well, because we use the record track, so, you just have your record track arm and you drag and drop
like
your
Tetris,
files,
yeah,
basically. So I move quick, and I'm always trying to record, so I'll record something, and somebody will be like, oh, I didn't, they're like, they didn't like that take or whatever, so I'll either get rid of it or I'll playlist it. Sometimes if it's just useless, I'll just go ahead and get rid of it. So if you move too fast and you want to put that back, like you accidentally erase it and they're like, no, I didn't want that one. And you're like, well, I actually went too far back. So that's my favorite go-to is you can always get that better.
Yeah. Do you ever blame the computer?
Of course. But I mean, if you're a I'll put it like this: if you are a good engineer and you are cool with your clients, they'll most of the time understand that it wasn't your fault that you did some stuff. Like,
yeah.
I've gotten to a point where most people know that I'm pretty solid as an engineer, so when something does mess up, it's more than likely the computer or, vice versa. It's not really a engineer issue, so.
I saw this funny meme the other day. It's like Avid, Avid is a publicly traded company you can like buy stock. You know, every quarter they have like a quarterly call where as an investor you can punch in on the call and listen. And they've delayed their Q4 call indefinitely. So I saw this meme the other day. It was like, Pro Tools, 2018, a lot of bugs, can't get the stuff, can't get the stock right, da-da-da-da. And then the next page is Pro Tools, year 3,500 something. Pro Tools finally stable.
Right.
No more crashing.
No more.
Glenn, ever delete anyone's stuff on accident? Never. Oh, man.
Oh, jinx.
Yeah.
You just jinxed yourself.
Not yet. Knock on wood.
I have this story where I was working on a movie and doing sound for movies.
Nice.
And it was a really bad work environment in the sense of everyone was working remotely. So, it was hard because like someone would be doing this and you'd have to send this massive session to you, then you would work on massive session to here. So you'd have these huge like 40 gig sessions and they'd build up on your computer. And I just like was not paying attention and the window was, so I couldn't see the full name. And I have a really bad habit of putting key command, put it in the trash can and then the key command to empty the trash really quick. Cause it's just like, bap, 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 empty the trash. And I put that thing in the trash can and did it really quick. And immediately I was like, that wasn't the right one. I just spent like 24 hours working on this and it is gone.
Gone.
And I went online and I bought that $100 software that will go in because it's not gone.
Right.
No, it's just as long as you don't write anything else, then it's still
like,
there.
Don't empty the
just
trash
hidden.
again. It's still there. It's like in like
Some limbo.
Well, in addition to that, you
Yeah, it's
can't.
like in
Not only
limbo.
can you not empty the trash, you can't do anything else on your computer because it's
Yeah.
going to start writing over where you just made that space available.
exactly.
But it's still there until if you go back and save it, you can still get it back.
Man, I
Yeah.
bought that program, that $100 program, and it saved my ass. So it was one of those things like we went out and we recorded like Foley, sound effects. Like there was no getting it back.
Oh, no,
that
no.
was
Yeah,
it.
that's
And
it.
it was on my rig.
Yeah.
So it was like I fucked it up.
Yeah.
Like the source files were on mine, and man, that saved my ass. And I was like, definitely like crushed some brews after that. Like went upstairs, like shotgunned a beer.
Like,
I felt so
gotta
good,
recover.
dude.
Yeah, I gotta recover after
Freaking
that one.
crushed a natty after that.
Yeah, man. Yeah, you have to. Close calls like that.
I think
man.
everybody. People don't want to admit they make mistakes, but I think making mistakes makes you better.
Oh,
So when
definitely.
the problem is that my only issue is like, because I know people make mistakes. My only issue is, do you keep making that same mistake?
Exactly.
That's when you suck.
Right.
You suck if you keep doing the same problem. If you keep making that same error, yeah, you need to quit doing whatever it is you're doing. That's not your career choice. You need to, But if you make a mistake and you learn, and you get better from it. That's kind of how everybody should, I think, makes it through the world.
Yeah.
So I mean, we all make errors and mistakes in judgment, and it's just if you learned anything from it, that's the whole point. You're supposed to learn from it. If you don't, then you're not really paying attention.
Yeah.
Because you get, I get so used to working here. When you go to bounce down files, it's always set up to bounce.
Oh,
easy.
the right bounce path.
Yeah, all that, and then you go to some other studio, you're like, bounce it, and then you go back.
not
And it's all
Like,
wrong. You're
one
missing
song,
everything.
one little note comes, and you're like,
Yeah.
oh, it was set out to bus 1 and 2, son of a. Then you gotta go set it up all again. But
No, I was gonna say I think the closest thing to like losing something, I recorded on someone's drive here when I was interning still, and their drive crashed at the end of our session.
Yeah. But that's
your
there,
drive.
there again. That's
Yeah,
that's why we always
That's
say
just
record on our
oh,
drive and then
yeah.
copy it to their drive when you're done.
Mhm.
But that's why certain things we do is like so people.
But I never
people get-
recorded on the drive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
that's the
yeah.
thing.
So I
So it's
learned
like-
that lesson.
So that's like why we always say like here if people always wonder why you guys always copy my stuff over and then work on. That's why because
Yeah.
we'll work on it on ours. And then we'll copy it to yours. And then if you don't want us to keep it, we'll throw it away. That's fine. But that way, we have it on a stable, something we definitely have known that's always working on our system and is stable. We don't really know where your drive has been. I mean, sure, it may be fine, but then what if it isn't? So we
And
always
usually
like
they
to
look
work
pretty
that way.
beat up. Like when someone brings a hard drive, no matter who you are, usually it's like they're pulling it out of their backpack. It's like they're like shaking it, throwing it around. I'm like, no way is this gonna work.
Yeah, while our drives are they're inside the computers, they don't get moved. So it's just a more stable environment. And then, like I say, we don't have any problem throwing it away off of our drive if you don't want it to stay there. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
D, you had something, man?
oh no, I was just like Mike said when they're on the drive, just give them that warning though. Like once it's gone, boy.
yeah, once it's gone, it's gone. There's no backups.
Yeah, that's it.
We
Most
don't
people
keep
are
stuff
cool.
like that.
Whenever a mistake is made, if you're like, hey, I mess this up real quick, let's just hit it again. Most people are pretty cool
Yeah, yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
No, 9 times out of 10, they didn't get it. that was not the take.
Yeah.
They say it will. They're
A
like,
lot
that
of
was the
times,
one.
That was the
nobody
one,
even
but it's
really
not the
knows
one.
what's going on. Like they're doing all their other things. They don't even know if you did something wrong on your end over there. You just keep on working, trucking. Don't make it look obvious. Don't be
Yeah.
over there throwing your hands up.
It's
in
only
the air.
it's only a drama if you make it a drama. I
Yeah,
mean, as long as it
exactly.
can be moved along, the
Yep.
session keeps moving, and it just keeps moving. It's the biggest thing is when people start to panic.
Yeah.
Because there's no real panic needed. You can always save it, go back, find it, or just do it again. It's not usually it's not.
That reminds me of a story you told me about when Pro Tools used to do round robin.
Round robin.
You guys
worst thing
remember
ever
round
created
robin?
on this
So, I
planet.
mean, I'll let Mike take round robin over.
So round robin was when Pro Tools first came out, and what it liked to do by default was it would find any drive that was attached to the computer, and it would use it as a recording source. So you could have a USB drive stuck in there. You could have your client's drive in there. You could have our drive, system drive, and it would just it's called round robin. It would pick every drive on there, and every single one of those defaults to be in a piece of. So you would record. Okay, I'm gonna record this vocal. It's on this drive. Then you record the next vocal. It's on this drive. You record the next vocal. It's on this drive, and it just keeps going around.
Which option?
Which was something that's fine if you work in one place and you never leave and you never disattach anything. But that's insane for any kind of commercial facility or really anybody because you'll find that we used to have problems all the time where people would come here and they'd be bringing their session. You're like, I'm like, half your session's on your system drive. What? I record on this drive. I'm like, yeah, but Pro Tools doesn't. It does. So then after a while, Pro Tools decided, okay, round robin is going to be not the default. It's going to be the option. And then they decided, you know what? Round robin is not going to happen. We're going to get rid of that. So
You're
they
3,000.
they got
We're
rid
not
of
gonna do it.
And we definitely had a few engineers that got toasted on that one here. As far as it happened to them, but then I said, just call the client, tell them at round robin, and that you just please bring their drive back up so you can put it all together, and then you can save copy as and put it all in one place, and then just from now on don't round robin anymore. Make sure you turn that default off. But that was in the early levels of Pro Tools back in 8 and 9 and whatever, I guess.
Yeah.
It was really early model.
It's not like a window that pops up and tells you. It's just like, oh, this is what it does.
Yeah.
If you don't know,
it's
it's
just
just
the
doing
default.
What
it.
it does.
So when you go check your file paths,
Yeah,
you'll
all
be
your
like,
disk
oh, it's over
allocations.
there, and
Yeah.
that's over there, and that's that way. And like, oh,
That
okay,
would
hold on.
freak me out, man.
Yeah, and it's all savable. The problem is when people don't, they freak out because they don't think they can. I can't put it
back.
down on that. Or they're like, I've had plenty of people, they don't know how to fix it. They bring me everything. Here's my system computer. Here's my laptop. Here's my hard drive. Here's my USB drive. And I had to put it all together. And I'm like, okay, then we just do this.
Watch.
And now I'm going to take it and put it on our computer. But that's what I would used to tell clients. If you don't understand it, just bring all of your stuff here.
Yeah.
And I will do it real quick in the session. It won't take long, but if you don't know what you're doing, you can make it worse.
Yeah.
So, that's how we'd end up solving a lot of those issues.
That
with
still
the round
happens
robin.
a lot of times. People bring us sessions, and you'll be like, "Dude, this is all on your desktop.
Yeah.
Like
It
you
still
didn't bring me any
happens.
files.
Yep.
Can you go home and do a save copy in for me? Oh, I forgot to do that. Yep.
Yeah, most people know the save copy in or save session as
Yeah.
save copy as. Yeah. And then the only other one, now the new thing in Pro Tools these days is the what is it when you're bringing files in, you can add files or you can copy files, convert or copy files, and so it's always the add files is the same thing as not copying them over.
Exactly.
It's almost like
Why do we have that option?
yeah, it's like
why is that an option?
I don't know why that
Yeah.
would be an option. I really feel like that you should always copy it into so it's always where it needs to be. Even if and maybe some people are just like, well, I just don't need a duplicate of that. It's like, well, but you will if you ever take it anywhere else. So
Like they
you
could
always
use
got to use that
word.
copier.
Like I was
copy or
showing a
convert.
buddy of mine Pro Tools. He's getting into Pro Tools, and he was adding. Cause he's like, yeah, I want to add it to my session. Like it makes sense. It's like,
Yeah.
I want to add it. Yes.
Yeah.
But it's just like,
It really doesn't need to be an option. I mean, honestly, I don't. But I'm sure there's people out there that feel that there is a need for that
Yeah,
for how
there's
they
gotta
work,
be.
and because they're like, man, it's it's a 10 gig file. I just want to reference it in my edit
Right,
desk. I don't need to
exactly.
pull it. So it makes sense for that. But it is one of those scary things that if you don't know what that means, and then you're later, that's the one that catches people now here. They'll
Yeah.
add files, and I'm like, you just added the file. You need to make sure you copy it. Because we're not on limited hard drive space like that. So
yeah, I can imagine like if you were doing like a massive movie,
yeah.
you don't need duplicates of file. It makes sense.
Yeah, that's. I'm guessing that they and a lot of those places probably. I mean, especially for places that work on like a server.
Like a sound effects.
Yeah,
drive.
you got a server. Yeah, like a
just
server
pulling from the
location.
sound effects.
Everybody's on different edit desks, but they're all pulling off that drive.
Exactly.
You don't
That
need to
would
copy
make
to your
sense.
local drive or whatever. So that would make sense in that kind of a level. Yeah. So.
I think that's probably what it is because Pro Tools to me has gone hardcore post. Like they're really gearing that system to.
And it's cool. Like,
Yeah.
their post stuff is sick.
Yeah.
But they're definitely, like you said, because of post house servers, like that's what they're gearing this stuff
Yeah,
towards.
I mean, like it makes sense. Sound effect servers and stuff like that, where you just don't need to really drag it off of there and stuff. I mean, once you've done your bounce, it's still attached. So, you know.
I heard
That kind
tons
of
of
thing.
engineers talking about new things now. They're on Studio One and
Studio One is a big thing.
I mean,
now.
Ableton.
The new Logic
Ableton
X
seems
is
to be a
cool.
new popular
Ableton
one,
is cool.
Ableton seems to be popular with a lot of people. Doesn't know.
Ableton is really cool, but it is just ugly.
Well, dude, you know what?
That's why I can't get into
You know
it.
what helped me with Ableton? Because I couldn't get over it was like just like that gray pastel.
Yeah.
You can change that color.
Oh,
It's like you flip it to black, and all of a sudden I'm like, okay, this is cool. I'm
There's
into
other
it now.
issues. Once you get used to working in Pro Tools, it does get a little bit difficult working in the other things. Just because Pro Tools is set up to be smooth, like it feels smooth when you do things.
This is what
I
I
know
think.
where this is. I know where that is, and the outputs, buses.
It's like set up as like an engineering platform, where all the other ones are set up as like a music creation platform.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like Ableton, Logic, Studio One, they're music creation. Like, I don't think my brain works like that. Like in Pro Tools, it's got like a signal flow basis. Like you
Right.
need these sends, you need this to here. Where like in Logic, I have such a hard time understanding because I don't create music on it. Or people that create music, like I watched Glenn make some beats, and I was like, dude, you're like flying on this thing. It's just a different, I think, brain,
Yeah,
which is cool. I mean,
Yeah,
sure, I
that's
wish.
do your thing.
I
I
still
wish I
like.
was
I'd rather
cool
use
at it.
Pro Tools to make beats. I mean, I like using that. To me, it's easier because it's easier just to toss it in there and just do it. I
Yeah.
mean, but
I'm
I
the
guess
same way.
everybody just gets used to what they're using. I mean, I tried Logic and that just didn't work for me. It was too, like you
The
say,
metering in Logic
It
is
didn't make a
weird
lot
for
of
me.
sense for me. Pro Tools, making music in Pro Tools is a little easier.
But the
to me
problem
still.
is that a lot of times producers don't bother to learn their software. So they're like looking at you like, how do I get this off my system? And you're like, I use Pro Tools.
Yeah.
But you're an engineer. You can't just use Pro
Problem
Tools.
solved. Yeah, you can figure this out.
Well,
We can Google this.
or I
Google.
can just look in the
Save the
menus and
world.
figure it
Have
out.
you
But
guys
yeah.
So, man, I wish I knew what the website was. It was like how to Google something. So, like, you know what I'm talking about, D?
Yeah.
So it's like, Mike, someone's like, oh, how do I plug in a microphone? And it's like, you tell them da-da-da, but they ask you the same question. You send them a link, and they click on the link, and it's a video, and Google pops up, and it goes, and it types in how to turn on a microphone. And it shows them web pages.
Yeah. Google saves a lot of things, man, dude. I mean, I figure out how to fix some things a lot of. On there, man. It's like,
Google's your friend.
yeah. I mean,
I like that new commercial they got. They're like, everybody's like, hey, Google. And then Kevin Durant's like, yo, Google.
Yo.
And it's like, doesn't work like that. It's like-
I'm loving the Google stock, by the way.
Yeah, the Google.
We only have like 15, 21 minutes left, and sometimes I'll go on like audio engineering forums and websites and just see what people are arguing about, because people love to argue on the internet,
Oh, yeah.
and I love to like just get a bottle of wine, turn the lights off,
you
drink
should
out
just
the
stop paying your
bottle.
power bill. It sounds like you like to sit in the dark.
Seriously, my power bill is insane. Like, oh man, yeah, I just sit in the dark. I need to I went home for a wedding the other week, and my dad was like, "Hey, man, you need to start taking some vitamin D pills." Like,
Sit in the dark too much.
looking a little too like flaky. But so yeah, sometimes I'll get a bottle of wine, Trader Joe's $2.50, Charles Shaw. Going gear sluts.
Nice little Pinot Gris.
Yeah. And I'll just like see what people are arguing about and just kind of like get toasted. And the latest thing I saw this one thread that there's tons of pages, and it was whether you should send. At what point does a mix become your creative intellectual property? It's like they paid you for the mix, the product. Do they also own the process? If they want the session, are they entitled to take that session and alter it, and it's now theirs?
It's always been there.
It's always been theirs. Because people were arguing, saying, "No, I would never give. Like the mix is mine.
I mean,
the result of the mix is yours. You can have stems, but you can't have the mix."
Oh,
What
you're
do
talking about
guys-
so people are arguing whether they should give out the session that has all the
Their-
things that they did to create.
Yeah,
Yeah, I've been hearing a
people
lot
were
of
saying
that too
that's
lately.
mine.
That's like,
So that's why.
Well, you know what? Solve that problem. Mix your song on the SSL, and then they can't do that.
That was one. That was one of
Yeah.
the things. Like, well, I'm on an analog board. So
Yeah, that's what I'm on. I'm on an analog board. You can't copy mine. I wish you would pull my mix up
and
and try to
Pro
play it, because it'll
Tools-
sound like nothing, because all the stuff I do is on the outboard gear and on the console. So when you pull it up, you can't just make, I'll copy this and put it over here. And no, it won't sound
Right.
Right. But that's, I mean, for people though that are mixing in the box, I see their point that all the work that I did to get to this is mine.
mine.
It's my
Yeah.
work. And so basically what people, if they ask for the session, people are saying, well, no, I guess as engineers, no, I'm not giving you my session because you don't need to see all the stuff I use to create that mix.
Because you'll
I mean,
take
I guess
and
it, 'cause
go
if you
somewhere
look
else
at-
with that same thing.
Well, I guess because if you think about producers, it's like they're not going to give you the samples that they use to create your song.
Yeah.
They're just going to give you the tracked out, here it is. And so I guess that makes sense. I mean, if you think about it from that way, I never had to think about it that way because I've never mixed in the
It's
box.
a thing that is
Oh,
coming
yeah,
up now.
it
Like,
is.
You were saying, I've been seeing it more and more on forums.
Oh yeah, I've just changed the output. That's the game for you. Change the output
Just, like, kinda
inbox
mess with, like, a little bit of
engineers,
faders.
and
Like,
change
yeah.
the outputs because then they'll think you mixed on a console.
Yeah.
So even if you took a few plugins off, change the output. Shit, they don't know any different.
But I mean, in the end, it's like you don't have to send them the session that you use to put all the plugins on. I mean,
So you feel
like you said, they're-
no, it's your like the
no,
mix
I mean
should
for
be-
that, yeah, you can. I mean, if they're like, no, I want everything tracked, then just bounce out the stems
stems is cool.
and
I'm
just
fine
send them the
with
stems, and then and keep all your stuff with your plugins and all that. Now, the question would be, a lot of it. I mean, even sessions I open here, and we got a ton of plugins in there, man. We got like a lot of plugins, and some of them still we don't have that people use. So it's like you can't necessarily copy everything somebody did because especially somebody that's paying you to mix. How much stuff are they going to really have? Are they going to buy everything that you would buy to do a mix? I don't know. Maybe they would. Maybe they wouldn't. But in the end, I would say, yeah, the what all the plugins and what you did to make the mix is the engineers. That's the engineers' personal.
Right.
That's their thing.
Right.
Just like a producer's samples that they take, and the way they alter them and do with them, that's their samples now, and it's theirs to hold and do what they want with. And if somebody says, "Well, I need the tracked out beat," it's like they're not going to give you everything with what they use to create that. They're going to give you the track. Here it is. This is what it is when.
This is what you bought.
Yeah, this is what you bought. You
the
bought
outcome.
my kick, the outcome of my kick after I did all these things, but I'm not telling you all the stuff that I did to do it, or I'm not giving you all the things that I used to create that kick sound.
Right.
So yeah, I can follow that with guys that are wanting to mix in the box.
I was going to say Pro Tools. They went to freeze and commit. They added that for probably that particular reason right there.
Yep.
Oh, you want my commit? Boom. You
Can't
don't get
open
to
it.
see any of my plugins anymore. And
Yeah,
it's
I got no problem
But
with
it's
that.
the same thing. Yeah.
Because I mean, that is kind of like your craft and what you do. And like I
Yeah.
said, I've never had to even think about it because all mine is on the board. So I don't care if you take what I. And honestly, the plugins I do put on, I don't get crazy with them. I mean, I use them like I would use a piece of outboard gear. So it's not like I'm
Yeah.
doing so many specialized things on them. It's like I use other things to make my mixes sound like my mixes. So
It seemed like the biggest consensus was no, they would keep their session, and I think the people were more worried about is people taking their session, altering it, and then just calling it theirs.
They do
it's
that.
Like that you just
That
got
is
cut
that
out.
is the
That's
game
what
right now.
happens
Cut
all
out.
the time.
that
That's the
still
game
happens,
right now.
yeah.
I've heard so many songs out that they just used what I did and
you were cut out.
included it. Yeah, they just had me as the recording engineer and just included it in their session.
Yeah. That's cool. That leads into like my next little thing. There's like a blurred line now, I think, between engineering and additional production. At what point does your creative input actually merit production credit? Because engineers and people, and the thing is, it's starting to come out now that the engineers are really having a huge
no.
outcome on like the song.
Yes.
The producer, yes, they made the beat, but as far as like the engineering put like this whole cohesive thing around.
Where do you
it,
think all those drops came
The drops
from?
and everything,
the
like-
stutters and the
the
blah
actual
blah blah.
sound,
Like
at what point does it become production credit?
Shit, I'm almost an A&R for my artists. Like I'm like the A&R because
Right.
I'm contacting the
Engineering,
other. Yeah, I'm making beats on there. I'm contacting producers to get stems. I'm dealing with every aspect. So shit, it's beyond being a producer. I'm an A&R.
Did you feel like
But-
you had to have the conversation with the artist, be like, "Hey, I'm doing X, Y, and Z. I need to."
I
be
think they
credited."
realized it. Like he saw everything I was doing. He's like, "Oh, I see that it's not just me doing this or the producer. You're a producer on this." And really, the label just lets me go because they know they don't have to do anything.
So you haven't met resistance with trying to assert that role.
No,
is cool.
because they see that I do everything anyway. That it's
clear.
kind of like, yeah.
Well, I mean, asserting a role is one thing. Are you getting paid for that role?
That's what
where the
that's what I'm
difference is.
trying to
So
get at. That's what I'm trying to
there
get
are
at.
already engineers out there that do points.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, I'm taking this much. I'm going to be the engineer for your whole record, and I'm involved in this level on, working on your record. So I get like a 1.5 or whatever. Now, people ask us all the time. I mean, I get just the question, hey, do you get paid, when these records sell and this? And I'm like, I choose not to. My choice is to charge the fee that I charge, get paid up front, get my money, and go home. Now, there's other people that maybe they want to go through that. They feel like, okay, no, I'm more involved as far as I want to get paid for all these other. Now, that's a personal. I think that as an engineer is a personal choice you make. And then in the end of it, don't get mad when there's all that paperwork and all that drama that goes along with trying to get paid your points on these records, because you chose to take that path.
Right.
You chose that I'm going to take points over getting paid a flat fee. I'm going to do this or that. I'm going to expect this and that because I did this work on it. So you can, that's just like to me, that's like any other job as far as you choose either I'm going to be getting paid a flat fee and I'm going to be happy and I'm going to take that and I'm not going to have to deal with this later, or I'm going to spend the rest of my life pulling my hair out trying to get paid for whether somebody screwed me over on my point on this one record. That's a choice that you just got to make. I think it's a viable thing to get paid points and it's a viable thing to get paid a flat fee, but is a personal choice and a choice between the engineer, the label, is whether they want to pay it. And then it's just the engineer's choice. It's like, hey, if you feel you're worth that much and the people that are using you feel that your input is that, then you will get paid properly your points.
Right.
But I don't think it's an overall thing where you say, well, engineers should get this. It's like some engineers should get that. Some engineers should not. Because some engineers just sit on their ass and push 3. You're not involved.
Right.
You don't even talk during the session. So, but you got other guys that are like, they get involved. They're much more involved with it. They're more, they work with the artist on a different level. So those kind of guys, I mean, maybe they do work that kind of a situation out. Like I said, I've never really decided to try to get into that because I don't choose to do it that way.
Right.
So I think that's kind of my opinion on the
I don't
whole
want
thing.
it to affect my engineering, period. I don't want to not be a dope engineer because I'm trying to get points. I'm not going to not do that drop because, that's a production thing. That's silly. To me, that's silly because I'm like, I'm just want to be a dope-ass engineer. So whatever I got to do to get there, that's what I'm going to do. Now, don't get me wrong. If an artist or producer's like, hey, we're going to give you some points, thank you. Awesome. Beautiful. But I'm not going into a session going, I need my points.
Yeah.
I'm not going to not do my job because...
this is my creative
no,
input.
I'm always going to be creative.
Yeah.
I'm always going to give whatever I can give to your thing. And if you want to, look out for me, then more power to you. I appreciate it. I'll ride with you. But
Now, I will say, too, like just up front that if that's an idea as an engineer anybody out there has, you need to bring that up front. You don't wait until like, oh, well, this record sold so many, so now I want something.
Right.
That ain't how it works. Either you make that aware up front, and then you take, records that don't sell, you don't get nothing, and the records that do, you get more or whatever. But you can't come in and be mad later because all of a sudden that record, well, the only reason that record did something is because of the way I did the auto-tune and the way I put that EQ on there and that one fly effect I did everybody talks about. It's, well, I got one of those records, and I know that. And that was that Fabo song, the D4L with the snap. That snap delay, man. I mean, I got a ton of work off of that because of the delay I put on that snap. But I could get mad and say, oh, the only reason that song sold. That's not it. I got paid a flat fee to do that, and that particular sound became integral to that song. But I'm not going to come back later and be mad about the fact, oh, it sold 2 million and I didn't get any copy. I didn't get nothing out of that.
Right.
That's bullshit. It's like, no, I got paid my fee to do my job, and I'm happy with that. And I'm glad that those guys sold a ton of records on that.
Yeah.
That's what I was paid to do, is help those guys sell a bunch of records.
Yeah.
So my thing to anybody out there thinking about it would be, you need to make a decision and don't get mad later if the song doesn't sell nothing and you get nothing out of that. You did all the work and you got nothing. There's that direction too.
Yeah.
Or if the song, you decide, well, I'm going to do flat fees because your last song didn't do nothing, and you're like, oh, I'm going to do flat fees, and then that one all of a sudden sells 10 million copies, don't get mad then. You got to make a decision and be a man and stand up and say, this is the way I choose to do my business, and you need to do it right, because all that changing up and trying to be a hustler and like, I need to get a piece of this and that, man, just grow up and do your business right and make a choice and then stand by it. And I think that if you do that, then you'll be happier and people will be happier with your work, and it'll all work out.
Preach.
Another thing, last thing that we're going to talk about, I had this thought last night, but it reminded me just now. So like, it's 2018. Getting paid now is easier than ever, right? It's like on our phones. It's like you push a button on the computer, get paid, right? There's always these stories, like when you're reading about getting into the music industry, oh, not going to get paid for 30 days, net 15, net 30, net 60.
net 60.
You see, so
Hell yeah.
you guys are on a net payment thing.
I mean, that's what whatever. That's what
Net
the label
60.
says.
Net
That
60.
vendor registration.
Because I had a situation where a label hit me up. I said, no, I want money up front or I'm not working. Artist said, we want to work with him. This is what it's going to be. And I got it hit my phone like 10 minutes later.
Yeah, you can do that. You can do whatever you want, but that's a risk. You risked it right there,
Right.
because the label could have been like, well, no, we're not doing that. Go find a different engineer.
So you feel like the net system is still like the standard of getting paid. Like when POs are sent out from labels for studio time, is it a net 30 or
net
do they
30
need
or
to
net
pay?
45? Net 45 is usually the longest. Net 30 is your typical. If you got a PO, you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never not gotten paid, either myself or the studio, on something on an invoice that had a PO, an authorized purchase order on it.
Right.
The only time you don't get paid is when you didn't get an authorization from a source that can say, yeah, you're going to get paid. Now, if you take somebody's word for it, like the artist manager's sister says, yeah, they're going to pay you, I talked to them, that's not going to work. You need to talk to somebody at the label that can issue a PO and give you a valid PO number. And, and you can tell when POs are made up. So you should be able to tell. It should not be.
official PO
You should be able
versus-
to understand what a PO number looks like if you're doing this for in your POing things.
Right.
So I've never had an issue where a label didn't pay on a PO. Now there's always been issues where they haven't paid or they refuse to pay, or you got to go through some hoops because you never got a PO, so you never really got an authorization, but you went ahead and did it anyway. Well,
Right.
then you're taking that risk. Sometimes the things get lost in the system and you got to call back, and it might take an extra couple of 10 days to get it or whatever. But again, as we discussed earlier in this episode, it's not called the music, it's called the music business.
Right.
So businesses, that's how they do stuff. Like when your bill comes from the cable company, right? You got 30 days to pay it, or 20 days, or whatever their net is. They don't call you and say, man, dude,
Make
you better
the
send me my payment on the phone right now.
Right.
That's not how it works. So they're legitimate businesses work in a net 20, a net 30, because like big businesses, they have to cut checks. They don't just got a person sitting there pulling out a checkbook every 5 minutes. A check needs to get
Right.
cut. They do it on a system, on a time. That's the same way I do it here. When I got to cut checks, it's on a particular day of the month. I pull them all up. I pay the bills, right? Because nobody has time to sit there every time somebody wants a check
Right.
and write it. Now, occasionally in your situation, they paid you because you made that choice. But like Dee said, that's a risk. They could have said, well,
Right.
we're not doing that. We're just going to have to get somebody else.
Right.
Because we can't work around. And we have times that people are like, well, we can't pay with a credit card because the business doesn't have we have to pay, a transfer or an
Right.
ACH or whatever. But I think the nets is still a viable thing. And if you're working with major labels, and there's not that many, there's, like 3 or 4 major labels now. And all the other labels are just divisions of that.
Yeah.
So technically you're still getting paid from one of the big ones. You got to think of how many sessions do they have in a day? For how many artists they got on their roster. They're not cutting everybody a check. Like the lady ain't sitting there handwriting out checks every day.
It's like some old granny.
Yeah, it's in a process. It has to be approved. It has to go through. And a lot of it people don't understand is it's like these are big companies. They're not like mom and pop stores.
Right.
Labels are huge. They have a lot of people. So the PO then has to be checked against what actually happened. Was this what was approved? Is this the actual artist that did it? Then you have to go through, and the A&R has to approve that. Then once they sign off on it, then it has to go to accounting.
Yep.
And then it all has to be matched back to make sure that artist's budget allows for that to even happen.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of little things, and you might be like, man, it ain't so hard to cut a check. Why can't you just cut my check? It's because there's a lot of checks to be cut. It's a huge corporation.
I just had that happen.
And so that's how
Yeah,
now it
I'm
works.
going through
They
that
were
right
like-
now. He broke it all down.
It's a process,
Oh
man.
no, they were like,
This is
"Look,
so important."
We've gone over budget. We need to do this many more days. We can't pay you your rate. Are you willing to take this or not? And it was like, this is the budget. This is what we've got. So
Right.
either you want to work or you don't.
Yeah, and you
So-
negotiate it out, and that's what you come up with, and then that's just kind of how you work. I mean, it is important that people understand. It's like I think that sometimes, especially people that aren't in the record business, like they're not working with the labels, they're not dealing with an A&R on a regular. They're new to, or like they're independents or whatever. They don't understand the whole process of a large corporation, and how it works in the flow of it. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of red tape and it's a lot of BS a lot of times that you feel like you shouldn't have to go through, but it's a large corporation and there's a lot that has to be done, and even here, it's like, I can't, just because somebody walks in and says, yeah, I need to get paid for this. It's like, well, if the people that write the checks aren't here, which is 2 people for this company that can write checks, you can't get your check today. You can yell all you want at the
Right.
front desk person, but they're not giving you a check because they can't sign the check. And it's the same thing in any kind of corporation. There's X amount of people that can authorize things to be done. And so it takes some amount of time, and then the nets are valid. I mean, it's not
It's
an
still the
unvalid thing.
standard.
Yeah, I mean, now 3 months, 4 months, that's stupid.
Yeah.
30 days, 45 days, 45 maximum. I think 45 is a justifiable amount of time. And granted here, when it hits 30 days and I haven't seen the check, you're getting an email from me.
Right.
So you just have to stay on top of what you do. And then every 2 days after that,
Keep hitting
I
it.
will continue hitting you with an email or a call until you at least respond and tell me this is where it is in the system.
Right.
And that's all we want. We just want to know where is it in the system.
Be acknowledged.
Yeah, you haven't forgotten
I
it,
do
right?
find though, as long as
So-
you are respectful and cordial, just like anything in life, you'll
Get what you
you'll
need.
Get what-
Yeah.
a lot
That's
further.
exactly
Like,
what
man,
happens.
as soon as you call, as soon as you're like, what's going on with this?
Yep.
And why don't I have it? You get right to the bottom.
Yeah,
of
you've
the
been
pile.
moved to the bottom of the list, and we'll get to
Exactly.
you when we get to it.
And
Because
good luck.
Because what'll typically happen, then you get all mad. You're like, well, I'm going to do legal. And as soon as some kind of you might push towards some kind of legal thing, then they'll let it go through whatever process. And then, oh, yeah, we'll cut the check before it actually becomes a situation where it bothers us.
Right.
You know, it's like you can threaten legal and you can threaten this and you can even send something legal to them. But
You're just digging your own grave.
yeah, you
Yep.
are. You're just making it take longer because
Yeah.
what's going to happen is by the time you decide that somebody says, well, I'm going to take you to court, then they'll hold it until the day before you got to go, and then they'll send you the check, and then there ain't no court date.
Yeah.
And you just
spend
burnt
money.
yourself 3 more months of
Yeah.
not getting paid.
Exactly.
So
Yep.
yeah, being cordial and understanding the other person, like in the accounting department at a major label, it's not their money, it's not their checkbook. So they have to go through their procedures to get it done correctly. And
Right.
you know, my biggest thing that I would only say to labels is that, you know, just acknowledge people when they ask about, hey, it's been 30 days. Can you please let me know the status? Just respond and say, it's in the works. It'll be cut in 2 weeks.
Yep.
Then everybody's usually cool. It's when you get ignored that people get upset, I think, you know.
I think it's so important. Like whenever you're like researching about engineering, people are like, "Can I make a living? Can I get paid? How do I get paid?" It's such like a gray area, and it's good. Like this information is good because we're all creatives, and sometimes business freaks out creatives.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I don't want to talk about like talking about money freaks so and so out because it's like So I think this is good. Like it is the music business. Getting paid is really important for your creative stuff. Man, great episode. That was like a really awesome episode. Thank you, D. Thanks, GT. Thank you, Mike.
Yep.
That was really awesome. We'll see everyone next time. This is the Engineers Corner. I do music. Patchwerk Studios, Atlanta, Georgia. Until next time.
Peace.
Peace.
Out.
Sonically superior.